Hey, welcome back to Screamin' Geek Media. I'm your host, Jerry, for this episode, The Evolution of Physical Media. This will be part 2 in my series. Before we jump in, if you like anything about physical media, like DVDs, Blu-rays, 4Ks, anything like that, please like and subscribe and turn your bell notifications on. I'm always part 1. I covered all the video cassette formats. So what we have left is your video disc. Today we'll be covering the analog video disc formats, which we have Laserdisc, the CED Laserdisc, MUSE High Vision Laserdisc, and VHD, which is Video High Density. First up, we're talking about the Laserdisc, which also was called LaserVision. It was the first commercial optical disc storage medium. It was sold and marketed it started out as MCA DiscoVision in the United States and was launched in 1978. The diameter is basically about the same as records, 12 inches, 30 centimeters. Lines of resolution prior was rated at 425 compared to 240 of VHS. By 1980, Pioneer Electronics purchased the majority stake in the format, and they marketed it as both LaserVision, which is the format name, and Laserdisc, which is a brand name. There are 2 formats of encoding on the Laserdisc. Most of them, when they started, there was the CAV, which is standard play. They was able to get 30 minutes per side. Then they developed the CLV, which is an extended play, and it was able to fit 60 minutes per side. So a 2-hour movie you'd get on one disc, but if it was over 2 hours, you'd have to split it up and put it on a second disc. And when you get to the second disc, if you put it on the wrong side, you get a little turtle, shows them upside down, you need to flip it over and you got the wrong side. On the audio side of Laserdisc, the technology, in the beginning all discs were analog, but the format evolved to incorporate digital stereo sound in the CD format and later multi-channel formats such as Dolby Digital and DTS. At the beginning, the Dolby Digital was known as AC3, so it's kind of confusing, but if you ever see AC3, it was Dolby Digital. Unlike now with everything digital, single streams, the Dolby Digital was stored in a frequency modulated form within a track normally used for analog audio. To extract it from the Laserdisc, it required a player with a special AC3 RF output, an external demodulator, and a decoder. Whereas a DTS was much simpler, just required a standard SPDIF connection to a DTS decoder. So basically just the Toslink optical cable, you're good to go. Now the earliest players, the players employed a gas helium neon laser tubes to read the disc. Magnavox started out, they had the VH800. It was launched at the same time in 1978. The first Pioneer was a VP1000 that came in 1980. Later on, the technology evolved and it became solid state players, and they used infrared semiconductor laser diodes. The first solid state laser disc player came from Pioneer in 1984, the LD700. Also, early players was only able to play one side, so you had to manually flip the disc. Eventually, they came out with the auto side changers. The little carriage that had the laser would actually flip. When it got to the other side, would flip over and read the other side, so you didn't have to get up to change sides, which made it nice. But again, if it was over 2 hours and 2 discs, you still had to change disc. The first LD title in North America happened to be Jaws in 1978. And the last LD title that we released in North America was from Paramount. It was Bringing Out the Dead, and that was in 2000. After losing ground to DVD, Pioneer announced in 2009 that they were ending the production of Laserdisc players. Now, if you want to see more of Laserdisc in my collection, I've got a Laserdisc highlights video you can check out on my channel. Here's one I kind of grabbed to show. I've got the Stargate. This is actually a double disc. It's a big bifold. And some have like this paper coating sleeve over the disc. Others almost like a mylar coating. I really like the Laserdisc format. It was really nice at the beginning. I didn't get into it until I actually got in my home theater probably about 1994. I think that's why I jumped in. I got a Laserdisc player, played both sides. Also was able to, those later models of Laserdisc players was capable of playing other formats of disc. And I think the second one I had was a Pioneer. And to play CDs, instead of the whole tray coming out, actually popped out a separate little tray for the CD, which was really nice. And a picture, even, a low rating that wasn't as high as DVD for lines of resolution. The video is still fairly good for laser. It was much better than VHS. But the audio side, that's where I think laser really shined, because the DVD format, especially in the beginning, they didn't know how to handle the format. The audio on DVDs could not hold a candle to what Laserdisc provided. The only time DVD, the DTS tracks were good, but Dolby Digital, they were flat. The Laserdisc format really for audio blew the DVD out of the water. There was night and day comparison. There was a lot of times I went back and watched Laserdisc movies until the DVD finally evolved and got better and better. Next up, we have the CED Laserdisc, which stands for Capacitance Electronic Disc. That's a mouthful. It was launched by RCA in 1981, but after 17 years in development. RCA originally had slated the Videodisc system for 1977 release, but due to disc not being able to carry much as far as capacity, and like 30 minutes per side, and the nickel-like material used to make the disc were not sturdy enough to manufacture. Signal degradation was also a big issue, so it took a long time to develop. Basically, the technology behind the format was the disc actually had a spiral groove on both sides, like an actual LP, the albums. A keel-shaped stylus with a titanium electrode layer rides in the groove like an audio turntable, reading the disc starting at the outer edge and working its way toward the center. The disc was stored in a caddy to keep it protected, and the player actually extracts it. And here in the example, I got the Alien, and it sits inside of a tray, and you can't pull it out. You would put it into the machine. It actually is able to. There's a clip on each end. It actually, you put it into the player. It grabs a hold of the caddy with the disc in it. Then you just pull the cartridge out while keeping it in there. Then when it's time to flip sides, you put the cartridge into the player, you slide it out, flip it over, and repeat. Kind of a pain in the ass. Now the first CD player was RCA's SFT-100W, and approximately 50 video disc titles were released at the same time at the launch. Now about 15 months later, RCA released a couple more models, the SGT-200 and SG-250. Both were with stereo sound. The original was only mono. So both of them had a new stereo sound, and the 250 actually was the first player to include a wireless remote. But all said and done, with by the time this was released, the Laserdisc had already been out for 3 years, and was gaining ground. You had the VHS, and Beta was still had a stronghold in the home video market. So basically, the CD was doomed before it was even launched. Now, the last titles that were released on CD Laserdisc was Jewel of the Nile and Memories of the Video Disc. It was a commemorative CD given to many RCA employees that were involved with the whole project. I've personally never owned a CD player. We had one at the time. We had our VCR, and the company that we had a service contract with, our VCR was getting repaired, so they gave us a loaner, and it happened to be the video disc player, and it was kind of fun, but definitely was different. Now next up we have the VHD, which is video high density. It was another analog video disc format that was marketed predominantly in Japan by JVC, and it was launched in 1983. The discs were a little bit smaller, 25 centimeters, 9.8 inches in diameter, and it was able to hold 1 hour per side. And it was designed kind of like the CD. It actually had the cartridge in a caddy, and you slid it in. It worked exactly just like the CED system from RCA. But unlike the CED, the disc have no actual groove. A diamond stylus reads the tracks electronically like a compact disc. It was first demonstrated in 1978 and demonstrated a lot of different consumer electronic shows, but JVC opted not to release the format in North America. So basically it was a European, Japan. Now a stereoscopic system was also sold in Japan, and these 3D VHD systems achieved the 3D effect using double speed disc with alternate eye images and LCS glasses to pass a correct view to each eye. Eventually the VHD became obsolete after 1987, but disc was continued to be manufactured up until early the 1990s. There were approximately 3,500 titles released on VHD. So if you want to do a search, you can do a search on eBay. You can find quite a few. I've found them as cheap as $30 for some off titles. Other movies are a little bit more, like Stallone's Cobra was about $62. The Star Wars were running about $100 a piece. Jaws, I think, was even like $150. So as a collector, if you want to add something like this to the collection, you can definitely get a hold of these fairly easy. Except for Alien. I want to get Alien, but that one's a really tough one to find. Now last up on the analog video disc formats, we have the MUSE High Vision Laserdisc. This is another format I was not even aware of until I was doing all my research. The MUSE actually stands for Multiple Sub-Nyquist Sampling Encoding. MUSE is a lot easier to say. In 1991, several manufacturers announced specifications for what would become the MUSE Laserdisc. And it was basically those feats of getting high definition on a disc, 15 years ahead of when HD, DVD, and the Blu-rays came out. Basically, the High Vision used the analog HD TV system. The MUSE players would actually operate like standard Laserdisc players, but would contain high definition video with a 5:3 aspect ratio. Lines of resolution I've seen vary. The research I've done, anywhere from 650, some of them were rated at 1125 lines, so I'm not sure exactly what it was. If anyone wants to correct me, please do so in the comments below, because I'm not perfect. The MUSE players use a red laser with a much narrower wavelength than the lasers found in the standard Laserdisc players. The first machine that reached the market was in May 1994, and it was Panasonic's XL HD10. Pioneer's first high-definition player was the HLD 1000. And then Pioneer followed that up with the HLD X0, which by many enthusiasts is regarded to be the best Laserdisc player ever made. The HLD X0 was entirely hand-built and weighed about 79 pounds. Even in Japan, the market for MUSE was tiny. Players and discs were never officially sold in North America, but were often imported. As for titles, I'm not sure how many was produced. I found a few online, with the cheapest being around $300, like Cliffhanger, Legends of the Fall you can find. Back to the Future, I think all three of those are available in the High Vision. And if you want T2, that's available, but you're going to fork out right now $649 for one of those. Again, I'm not sure how many was released. It'd be pretty cool to have, but that's too rich for my blood. So that pretty much wraps it up for part 2 of my Evolution of Physical Media series. Part 3 will be the digital video disc formats, which are actually quite a few. Most of us only know of, DVD, Blu-ray, the HD DVD, and the 4K, but there's several other ones out there that I'm going to cover everything that I've found in my research and pass along to you guys, so definitely keep an eye out for that. Like and subscribe, turn your bell notifications on, and we'll see you soon. Good day.